Okay, everybody, as I said before, I'm going to break this Econoline up in sections and parts. So this one here is going to be the frame. I'm going to show you what I had to do to this thing. I had to make it, from scratch and add the components that he had bought for the Econoline. So I had to incorporate them back into a full custom frame. So I'm going to show you how I had to do it, how I came up with the center line for the wheelbase. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to point out a few things that I had to go through. Remember, this thing, you have to assemble the rear end, you have to put all that together, you have to put all the front end components on to get your center line. You have to build it, take it apart, build it, take it apart. You'll do that several times. I mean, it's labor intensive. It is time consuming. You know, you just can't go completely out of imagination. You have to have some kind of center line, some starting point. And then when you're using components that are designed to be incorporated in the unibody of the truck, and now we're going to build it onto a frame, nice in one way, can kind of complicate things in another. But let me show you what I've done here. It's kind of interesting because we had the front end, we had the 4-bar system for the rear, but I want to show you how I had to come up with the mounting hangers and where I had to mount the coilovers for the rear. Now the front, you know, it's kind of an assembly that came from, Scott's down there in Knoxville, and it was designed to be welded into the factory unibody frame, the unitized frame. But, there's a few things about the body of the truck that we had to deal with, and it was better to go it this way here. Now remember, I'm going to cut the floor and the factory frame out of this thing, all the unitized stuff, and then I'm going to set the body over top of this thing, and then I got to build custom floors. But right now, the focus point is just the tube work on the frame. Okay, everybody. So here's the frame. And as I promised, I was going to do a little segment on what I'd done and what came about with just starting with some box tubing. Well, we had the front end, and it was made to go under and tie into the unibody of the Econoline pickup. Well, once we got under there, we realized some mounting points didn't look that great, and it was probably a better idea to just build a custom frame, start from scratch, incorporate this front end, and then incorporate the 4-bar system for the back of the truck. Now, both systems were designed to put in the truck with the unitized body, which is fine. So what I did was I measured the frame rails, the width, and luckily for this truck, the frame rails are straight. So I was able to get some box tubing, well they did, brought it to me, and I measured the width and how it's going to sit inside the truck's cavity underneath as the factory chassis would be. So the width of this thing, as you can see, is a little wider than what they anticipated, and that's fine because we would have had to have done that in the pickup truck too. But as you can see, 2x4 box tubing, roughly 1/8 inch thick wall, and it's mild steel. That's what everybody goes with tube chassis cars and even back half when you pro street a car. So, of course, this bar here is in the factory location as the factory one. And there's a bracket that's going to be welded right here to support the transmission. And then I still got to make mounts. But as you can see, the wheelbase is exactly what it needs to be. 4-bar system. I had to put a Panhard track bar in this thing. Had to remove it and put it in the back. They designed it to be up here, but they also designed these 4 bars to be on the outside. I didn't want them on the outside, it's too wide. So had to move them in the inside. And mocking it up is a task, because if you don't notice, the shocks and everything sits back at an angle. Look at this control arm right here, and then right here. See how it's tilted back? And that's for your camber and your caster of the front end, so it lines out right. But that messes with your center line. So the center line is actually up here a little bit. It's not quite split in the shock. And this thing is 90 some inches from center to center. and I've marked it, I've scribed the line, drew it, come off the center line of the front, brought it straight back, scribed the line on the rear of the frame, plumb bobbed it, and that gives me my center line to my rear end. And then I work in reverse. I work from the back brackets forward, and that gives me my mounting position here. It's a little bit of a task to try to start all over from scratch without it being in the vehicle. So now I got to blow the floor out of this thing, set the body down, and start fabbing up floor pans and the underpinning of the truck. But you can see what's going on. Okay, here's the frame. As you can see, this section right here and here, that area right there, that was bought to be put into the truck. All right, so we had to make these frame extensions, bring them out. As you can see right here, there's a section right here had to be brought out. That's roughly 19 inches or so, 19¾ And then made the back half. Started off with just, squaring it up and making it a squared out pattern. But as you can see, what I had to do right here, had to make these mounts. And what I did was I come off the front, and the spindle right here, I measured from the floor up, and it roughly gave me like 14 inches. Now, remember, this thing's sitting on this jack, but I had jack stands under all four corners, and I've leveled the frame. You have to level the frame this way and then this way, okay? So once you get it level on the ground, then you start building off of that platform, and everything you build from there moving forward needs to stay level. If it is level, then you're doing it right. I took a 2x4 steel tube, and I laid it on top of here, and then laid it across here and clamped it, and that allowed me to keep it in tune and in line with the rest of the frame. Now, let's go back here and let's show you here. As you can see, the front end, okay, and then I had to put the sway bar mounts on. As you can see what's going on there, and I kicked the front out, and then I kicked the back out. And what I mean by that is it's coming out right here and then zigzagging and going out to the front. Well, this will sit inside the wheel well area of the van. Well, pickup truck, excuse me. And for those who don't know, these were Econoline vans that were converted to pickup trucks by Ford. Nobody did it. Ford company did it. The Econoline van. But anyway, this is the Mosier housing that I showed earlier. And I had to make the hangers. As you can see right here, they're on the inside of the frame rail. Now everything's tacked in. I'll burn this thing in. I'll burn it all in here probably tomorrow or the next day. But I'm just doing a final once over to make sure everything's in line. And I had a piece of tubing right here across. As you can see the area where I had to grind it back out, cut it back out. Well, I was going to mount the shocks to that, but it did not like being in that position. So I took it out, and then I had to go with this tubular setup that they sent. And then I had to cut the panhard bar, as you can see, with a piece of all thread right here. As you can see what I did, I got to add 5 inches to that. And the reason being is they wanted the panhard bar bracket, which you see right there. They wanted it to go on the front, stick out, and then go across and tie into the frame. Well, and that was okay. But it's my understanding you want that thing to pivot at the 4-bar system up and down so it doesn't make the rear go like this, side to side. So I had to notch it, had to place it. As you can see the notches. I'm not burned it in yet, but this, like I said, this is just a once over before I burn everything in. And then I made this bracket right here, and it ties into the tubular bar that holds the coilovers up. And I'll finish burning all that in, and then that bar goes across. Now remember, this bar here, this panhard bar, you always want it to ride in line with the rear and level with the rear. That's Ride height is where it needs to be level at. That way it has the best ride possible with full adjustments. And of course I'll cap these off after I make a attachment for the bumpers or whatever for the body. That's why I left them open, because I'm probably gonna make a hanger right there to tie the body to the frame. And now the next procedure will be to mock up for the engine and transmission. I will bolt that together and then I'll move it back. And in the Ford pickup, the Econoline pickup, there's a bracket that bolts. It doesn't really bolt, but they've got it bolted, but it welds. And it comes off of here, and that's what holds the back end of the transmission up. And I've still got to make mounts, but like I said, I'll set the engine and transmission in this thing and figure out where everything's going to sit. We need it to sit back, because like I said before, it's going to have a supercharger on it. So we need this real estate up here to have for a radiator, have for the supercharger, have maybe an intercooler. We need it, and we need that stuff to go back as far as we possibly can get it. But that's what it looks like. And you always want to set your rear end up. I set this one 3 degrees before I tack welded the brackets. That's another reason why it takes so long to mock all this up. You got to get the rear side to side and then tilt up and down. And before you even place a bracket, you've got to know where everything sits, because once you burn it in, yeah, you can cut it back loose, but that's no fun to start cutting stuff back. And I don't want to do that, but I mean, if have to, we will, but I believe it's going to be right. Now remember, you set these frames, you set the suspension up to ride height, and that way your bars everything will ride level. It should be level once it's got the body weight down on side of it. But check it out. One more time, I'll do a walk around right here real quick. All right, check it out. Of course, when I'm done, it'll be in the van rolling. But pretty dang cool. Let's see. We'll do this right here. Bam. Pretty nice little setup. And there's the van pickup. All right. So there you have it. That's just a little update on where we're at with this frame. And the people that's keeping up with this thing, it's kind of cool to see. I wish I could have showed every little detail of making things, but it just burns up so much time. And I've been on this thing for a few weeks just trying to get it to this point. It's a lot of thinking, a lot of thought process, finding the center line of the wheelbase, finding the center line of where the rear end's going to ride, then setting all the brackets up. Believe it or not, I've had the rear end out of this frame here. I've had it out 3 times, just setting it up and mocking up for the degrees of the pinion angle, the degrees of the brackets, where the coilovers will be, and they sit at a certain degree angle too. Nothing sits straight up and down. So it's just time after time after time, but you want to spend it now, because I can stand right here and be over top of it and weld it so much easier than being under the vehicle in the air or whatever. But the next thing I'll update is once I get the engine and transmission sitting in it, I'll show you what I've done there real quick.